Hello and welcome to Flagstaff TV. Today we are joined by George Lucan, the Managing Director of Angus Energy. George, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Catherine.
On site at Salt Fleetby, can you tell us how things are going?
They're going very well right now. We have we had two big hurdles. One was a big hurdle for everyone in the UK onshore, planning and permitting, and the other one is the actual building construction. In the case of the planning and permitting, I'm pleased to say that we're on the cusp of completing all of our regulatory and local authority permissions. We've got in our final local authority planning permission last week, and we have full OGA consent to produce. And in terms of HSE, we've signed off on our pipeline. And in terms of the EA, I can reassure investors that we expect to give them a happy announcement in the next couple of weeks on that. So that's one side of doing business in a very heavily regulated jurisdiction like the UK. And for some companies, it's the most difficult side. I'm pleased to say I think that's behind us. So that's a very good side. In terms of construction, that's also progressing exceptionally well. We really divide construction up into three main streams of work: the actual civil foundations, the pipe work, and the electrical and control and instrumentation. So the civils will be largely complete by the end of this month, with all concrete being poured. There's been a few days of setting, and we'll start to place various skids that have arrived on top of that, those concrete pads, and get them in place. And that paves the way for much more rapid pipework progress. We've already done, I think, almost coming up to 400 welds, certainly by the middle of this week. That welding process gets much faster when you actually have the skids, these pieces, large pieces of equipment to tie into. You can't guess their exact position in advance of them actually being in place, because it's a millimeter by millimeter job, Catherine, so you get anything wrong there. Once pipe work, or rather twin tracking with pipe work, we'll be doing an electrical run. It's a cable pull, it's called, all the way around the site. This is a high pressure gas facility, so all the electrical work has to be done by very highly qualified personnel. But nonetheless, there's a nice target for doing that, as with the control and instruments. So we're kind of happy with the way things are progressing. I don't see any known unknowns. There's always the unknown, but we have procured all of the things that we need to achieve this. I think that's the most important thing. And the teams I've got here, in terms of TEI, our welders, and our electrical contractors, KES, and also our civils contractors, CLS. These are all good people who I've met, who I watch working, and they work well together. And if you've got good people and you've got your worst of your procurement done, you have a very, very high probability of being able to achieve things in a sensible timeline.
That sounds great, George. Thank you so much for the update. And can you tell us, when is the most likely date for first gas?
I knew you'd ask that one, Catherine. We're aiming to achieve first gas during May. In the best way in the world, I'd like it to be early May. But we've got skids, large piece of equipment not coming on till the very end of April, and we'll have a mad dash to connect them. After that, there's a period of commissioning, and we're hoping that there's normally two types of commissioning: a dry commissioning period and a wet commissioning period. Dry, when you don't actually have the gas in the pipes, and the wet when you do. We're hoping to get about 2/3 of that dry commissioning done, which are electrical and testing of pipes, done before those last skids come in, and then we'll have a much truncated dry commissioning process in early May, followed by what we hope will be no more than a 10-day wet commissioning period. And we say that with some degree of confidence and reasoning, in that this is not in some senses, this is not a complicated facility. There's very few moving parts, very few things you can adjust. The facility is largely solid state. So, it works or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then an awful lot of incredibly intelligent designers will have a lot of egg on their face. So we're pretty certain it does work. Therefore, it's not like some plants where you're constantly adjusting all sorts of pieces of equipment. This is largely built as is, and it will run as is. So we don't think the commissioning period needs to be very long. It's not to say there won't be hiccups on the way.
Thank you, George. Well, hopefully not. Finally, looking at your latest set of results, what are the key takeaways for your investors?
Well, I think this is the final transformation of Angus into a cash-generating company. And there's been a long and hard road for shareholders, and I think they'll be looking for dividends or some material corporate action or other forms of returns. And I'm hoping this is the moment when they can call those hopes reasonable expectations. So good news for shareholders, definitely. And you can see the interest in this asset and in the company around. We happen to have acquired this field at the most propitious time, and shareholders should be pleased that we've done so.
Thank you very much, George, for your time today and for the update.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
And thank you for watching Flagstaff TV.